Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I will talk about this book, Parveen Babi by Karishma Upadhyay. So this is a biography of Hindi film actress Parveen Babi, who was one of the top actresses of the 70s and early 80s. So this book came out in 2022. Those of you who watch Hindi films would know Parveen Babi through the movies that she did. So for a while in the 70s, from 74 onwards till about 1983, she was among the top Hindi film actresses of her time. So, this is a fairly well researched book on her life. She died at a young age in 2005, January, when she was just 52-year-old. She was found dead in her apartment. And if you know about her, you would know that she was suffering from mental illness, and she was living the life of a recluse in Mumbai for more than 15 years when she died in 2005 January. So let's pull back and look at her life. So this book has done a good job of detailing her life. So it combines the personal with the professional. So you get to know about the actress, the kind of movies she did, the career she had. You also get to know her personal life. So let's get started. So just to recount her details, she was born in 1953 in April, though Wikipedia mentions it 1949. But as far as this book is concerned, it mentions 1953, and she was born in Junagadh in Gujarat. Junagadh was a princely state, and her father was one of the leading advisor to the king of Junagadh at the time of partition. The king left for Pakistan, and Junagadh joined the Indian state. And so, first thing to know about her personal life is that she was born uh, when her parents had been married for a long time. Her father was about 50-year-old, and her mother was around 40. And so she was the only child, and she was born very late. So when she was growing up in Junagadh, she had a big house, and she grew up in a lonely household because her parents were quite elderly, and she had no siblings. So maybe it affected her development to some extent. And when she turned 15 or 16, in fact, she came to Ahmedabad to study in a college. And Ahmedabad was a big contrast from Junagadh, where she was born and did her schooling. And for the first time, she was living away from her home and parents, and she was living an independent life. So this change in the city from Junagadh to Ahmedabad had a tremendous impact on her. So from a person who was not very outgoing, who was an introvert, who loved reading books, keeping to herself, she found that when she was staying in a hostel in Ahmedabad, she became a lot more social. She started going out more. She started talking more. She became very popular among the students. Uh, Boys from that time, in this book they have mentioned, the boys from that time remember her as somebody very attractive, very social, very charming. So she blossomed in college. She had uh, she developed a habit of smoking while she was studying in college, and this habit stayed with her throughout her life. But coming back to her college days, her parents had agreed to. Her father passed away when she was just 6 year old in 1958, and she was brought up by her mother, and they had somebody else living in their house, a distant relative, a young guy. There's not much mention of him in the book, though it says that it's very strange that there is no information available on him. Anyway, her mother had allowed her to study because she, on one condition, that she would get married as soon as she finished college. So she was there was an arrangement made of a person, Air Force officer from Pakistan, who came to see her. The two families talked, and a match was arranged. And Praveen Babi went to Karachi, and there was an engagement ceremony sometime in 1970, and it was decided that they would get married at a right time after she finishes college. She came back to Ahmedabad. They were in love. They would write letters every day. Now, this is pre internet, pre mobile phone, so they would write letters and they would also talk on phone. And she was madly in love. She would do lots of things for him. So this went on. And then in 1971, Bangladesh happened. The war in eastern Pakistan, which became Bangladesh, took place. India, Pakistan went to war, and then suddenly this engagement was called off. She was heartbroken. She took many months to recover. Finally, she recovered and she got into a relationship with a leading pop singer of Ahmedabad at that time. And they hung out together, they spent time together. That was her first proper relationship, and it went on for a while. Um, then she met in Ahmedabad at a shoot. Um, B.R. Ishara, a film director of that time who had made many hit films. He met her, he saw her, and he offered her a film. They signed an agreement, and he told her to come to Bombay. It was Bombay, not Mumbai at that time. And he promised to give her a break. So, this is the first part of her story. So, in 1973, she came to Bombay. It was called Bombay then. And there were two directors who had signed her up. B.R. Ishara had disappeared for a while and she was wondering what happened. And then she got a break by another director called Kishore Sahu. So her first two movies were by these directors. And one of the things that happened at that time was that the movie titled Charitra had a very popular cricketer of that time, Salim Durrani, as a hero against Parveen Babi. But these two movies did not do well. Her breakthrough role was in a movie called Majboor, which had Amitabh Bachchan. That released in 1974. And from that time onwards, she signed some very big banner films, and she was considered one of the top actresses of her time. So Majboor was followed by other movies uh, like Amar Akbar Anthony 1977. She also acted again with all the top heroes of that time. There's Amitabh Bachchan, Rajesh Khanna, Devanand, Kabir Bedi, Sanjay Khan. Um, Interestingly, she got this image of a westernized girl, and she and Zeenat Aman were considered the glamorous actresses of her time. Not many people know that Praveen Babi was very fond of reading. She loved to read, and she was very intelligent and articulate. And she had one quality which very few people have. She had a photographic memory. So when she was given a dialogue of a movie, she would remember it after reading it once. So a lot of people think that actresses like Praveen Babi and Zeenat Aman are not very good in terms of intellectual abilities or to be able to remember the dialogues, but she was really good and very professional. Everybody had good things to say about her. She was doing really well. And then in 1979, in the second half, she had her first attack. She had a problem which was not diagnosed at that time, but it was a mental disorder called schizophrenia, which is even today there is no proper sure cure for that. So she had a first breakdown, and she moved to Bangalore, and she stayed with UG Krishnamurthy, and he helped her recover, and she recovered in 6 months. And then she came back and worked professionally. She completed the films that were stuck. Some directors got upset, like Prakash Mehra, but they welcomed her back because she had a reputation of being a professional actress, very disciplined, no tantrums, nothing. She would mix around with people. Everybody in the unit had good things to say about her. So, yeah, She was at that time acting in movies like Kranti, which was a big movie by Manoj Kumar. She was acting in uh, Desh Premi, which Manmohan Desai was directing. Prakash Mehra had dropped her, but he took her on for Namak Halal, and she signed up some movies with Amitabh Bachchan. We'll come to Amitabh Bachchan later on because there were a lot of issues that happened. She uh, gave interviews much later about how Amitabh Bachchan victimized her and caused problem for her. But by that time, nobody was taking her seriously. So all this was going fine, but you could see that there was some problem. So this book is based on interviews with people who were close to her at that time, and what appeared in the press, film magazines and newspapers at that time. So it's fairly well-researched book. It is spoken to. They have spoken to a lot of people. Most people in the industry had good things to say about Praveen Bobby. A lot of people sympathized with her, and anyway, so she was doing again all right, quite well, and then she had her second attack. UG Krishnamurti had told her to not um work so hard for movies because he was concerned about her having a relapse. And in the when she came back in 1980 after her breakdown, she worked doubly hard. She also starved herself to maintain a certain look and certain figure. So all these things added to the problem. Then there was pressure of doing multiple shifts at that time. So all this led to her second breakdown in 1983, sometime in June, and she left Bombay and flew outside India. Nobody knew where. Uh, Eventually, she landed up in New York, where UG Krishnamurti was there, and she spent time with him in US. From New York, I think they went to Los Angeles, Hollywood. She was there, and then initially a lot of people were surprised in Bombay. She had left movies midway, but after 6 months, after 1 year, most directors and producers decided to either scrap the movies or cut her role or make do with some kind of substitute. So quite a few movies were left incomplete when she flew out of India in 1983, June 1983. So that is one chapter of her life which ended. She came back to India in 1989 because her visa in US was not renewed. So she had to fly back. So now let me talk about her personal relationships. So when she entered the film industry, within a few months, she and Danny Danzopa, who was coming up as a villain at that time, they were living in the same area of Juhu. They hung out with same set of friends, young set of people at that time who used to meet on weekends somewhere in Juhu or often at Sun and Sand Hotel. They would socialize, they would drink, and they would talk. That is how Danny and she met and became close. They had a fairly they were fairly open about the relationship, which was not the case in film industry because everybody used to hide things, but they were pretty much open. But after about just over 2 years, both were doing well. They moved in the same apartment complex, Kalumal Estate in Juhu. So Danny was on one floor, she was on another floor. Then they eventually moved together. Then slowly, like it happens in a relationship, the cracks began to appear. Danny felt that she was, uh, she and him had slightly different perspectives. Danny was more of a loner, quiet person, given to waking up early in the morning, doing things in a certain way. Praveen Babi was more social, wanting to go out on parties. In any case, what happened was that the differences blew up and they separated. Then, after a few months, she met Kabir Bedi and they started going out together. There were complications there because, unlike Danny, Kabir Bedi was married. He was married to Pratima Bedi and he had a little daughter, Pooja. But Kabir and Pratima had this some kind of an arrangement where it was an open marriage. So this relationship was intense between Kabir Bedi and Praveen Bobby. In this relationship, Praveen Babi's insecurities came out. Her paranoia, her mental state became fragile, and it eventually ended. So Kabir Bedi had become a very big star in Europe. He had done an Italian television series called Sandokan, which was a big success. So he had moved to Europe, and initially Praveen Babi had moved with him, but things did not work out. Again, the same kind of problems. Her bit of paranoia comes into the relationship, and she moved back to Bombay and re-entered the film industry. It was sometime in late 76, early 77, and her career took off because she was disciplined actress, so directors welcomed her back. So yeah, then she met Mahesh Bhatt. She had met him when she was with Kabir Bedi. Mahesh Bhatt was not a hotshot director at that time. He was a struggling director who had made some flop movies. He was down and out. He did not really have much money. He admits it openly that he lived off Praveen Babi's money when they were seeing each other. Uh, Mahesh Bhatt introduced Praveen Babi to UG Krishnamurti, his guru, and it was a fairly talked about relationship because Mahesh Bhatt was married. He had a daughter, Pooja Bhatt, and it became gossip in the film magazines and in the film industry. And Mahesh Bhatt had nothing to his credit. He was a struggling director with no chance of success. But this relationship was intense, and eventually it ended, and it ended badly. Um, it shook up Mahesh Bhatt, and later on he made movies from this relationship. First movie he made was फिर तेरी कहानी याद आई, which was a telefilm on Z, which had Rahul Roy and Pooja Bedi. Great music by Anu Malik, you can see it. And second movie that he made was Wo Lamhe, where again he looked back on the relationship. And the most important movie was Earth in 1982, which was based loosely on his relationship with Praveen Babi. And that is a movie that catapulted Mahesh Bhatt to stardom. He became a big director because this was a movie which was both a critical success and a commercial success. Mahesh Bhatt at that time had told Praveen Babi, they used to talk, that do not watch this movie, this would disturb you. And Mahesh Bhatt felt sometimes a bit guilty that he, in a way, used his relationship for commercial purpose to make a movie. But that's how things turned out. But interestingly, all three, Danny, Kabir Bedi, and Mahesh Bhatt, remained fond of Praveen Babi throughout their life. In fact, when she passed away, only three people from the industry had turned up. These three people, Mahesh Bhatt, Danny, and Kabir Bedi. So they felt protected towards her. And one very important figure in Praveen Babi's life was her secretary. She met him at the start of her career with Sharma, and he stood like a rock, and he was with her throughout from 1973 to 2005. And because she had these attacks, she would later on abuse him. She would tell people that he is doing this, doing that, but he considered Praveen Babi her family. Other person in her life was her mother, who passed away sometime in 2001. And in the later part of her life, Praveen Babi depended on her, but they were always fighting. And her mother was not very well educated, so she did not know how to handle her daughter. So it was always a strained relationship. But yeah, they were the only ones who had each other. So there was no other family. So this book brings out the tragedy of her life beautifully. It makes you feel sad. There are a lot of details in the book about her career, about her personal relationships. So if you were to read it, and if you have interest in Hindi film industry, you'll enjoy it a lot. I also believe that in India we do not have a lot of emphasis on biography as a genre. So I think this is a great addition to the literature on Hindi film industry. And one very important thing, Praveen Babi is known for one thing even today. She was the first Indian actress to feature on the cover of Time magazine in 1976. So it is something which is talked about a lot. Let me show you the cover. So Time magazine had done this cover story on Asian film industry. They talked about Bombay film industry, and somehow they ended up featuring Praveen Bobby in this on this cover, which was one of the most talked about covers. Though there is no interview with her in this because it's a story on the Asian film industry, but yeah, this is something which you do a Google search, this will come up as a result. So yeah, I hope you liked the review, and from now onwards I'll be doing reviews regularly because I think Indian readers should get book reviews on YouTube. So that's my effort. I'll be bringing you lots of Indian books and I'll be reviewing them. I have got a whole stack of books lying in my room. So yeah, thank you very much for watching my channel. And I'll India, Amitabh Bachchan. I forgot when she came back to India in 1989. There was a bit of flutter in the media. A lot of publications interviewed her. They wanted a lot of information from her. They put her in headlines, but once they got the interviews, it came out that she was suffering a lot. She blamed Amitabh Bachchan for trying to kill her, for conspiring to create problems for her. And then she went on and said things like the CIA, which is American intelligence agency, is trying to kill her. And she said all kinds of things which were incredulous. They made the interviews more of a joke, and then gradually the media stopped paying attention to her. She actually filed a case against Amitabh Bachchan, and she said that he had tried to do this or that and tried to kill her, manipulate her. Though one thing is there in the book, it comes out that she was obsessed with Amitabh Bachchan, and they might have had a relationship in the early 80s when they were doing multiple films together. This is borne out by a lot of people in the industry, which are quoted in the book, that she had this obsession with Amitabh Bachchan. And that is one reason she never did films with Rajesh Khanna in the 80s. She refused a movie like Sautan, in which she was cast. And then later on, Tina Munim was taken for the movie. So yeah, that is there. So I thought I mentioned Amitabh Bachchan, so I must. So there's a lot of detail in the book, which once you read, if you love Hindi films and you want, and it's a fairly racy book. You would read it probably in 2 days, and yeah, I enjoyed it. And yeah, I read it on Kindle, so you can buy it on Kindle, or you can buy a physical book, and I think it's fairly reasonably priced. You can check the price on Amazon now. So thank you very much for watching my channel. I definitely will bring you more reviews of books written by Indian writers. And yeah, thank you very much.